Ooh, she pretty. What's going on, ladies and gents? It's been a little bit since I've given you an update on the No Limit C10 Stepside that we're building, so we're going to go through and I'm going to show you what I've been up to. I haven't been doing a great job of filming everything I've been doing on this, only because I've been busy literally working on the other 4 cars that we got here. So I've kind of been doing this thing in between all that stuff. But we'll show you what we got. So I believe last time you saw this, it had the, might even still had the stock valve covers on it and the stock LS6 intake. So we've changed those. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of these sheet metal intakes, but this one is a mid-rise instead of a low-rise, so we still will get some decent mid-range out of it. And this is 100% better looking than that ugly LS6 intake that was on there. The only thing that sucks here is this is too tight, even for a very tight 90, so we're going to have to pie cut that thing, at least this angle right here. I have installed my PSI harness. You can see it's all laying over here. I haven't drilled my hole through the firewall yet, and that was because I wanted to get my vintage air in, which is in as of this morning. I just got done getting all this in twofold, so I could also mount my regulator up here, and so I could figure out what kind of real estate I'm going to have inside for this ECM, because it's a larger ECM. It's the PO1 style, I believe, red and blue connector. The fuel lines are done, front to rear. I just finished that up, hooked up battery power to the fuel pump, and let it run for about 5 minutes just to make sure there's no leaks anywhere, and any injector O-rings or any of my fittings or any of that stuff, which there are not. I'm not thrilled about that loop right there. So I did have this set up with a 90 here and a 90 here and a nice little short piece here. But my 90 that was up here was leaking from the 6AN side, not from the, the AN fitting side, not from the hose side. And I do not have another 90. So we went with the straight and we did that, and it'll work. It's not anything bad. These are all my wires for my vintage air. This is it. It's everything that needs to come out. So the only other 2 wires that will need to come out is 2 wires off of this PSI harness for my fan 1 and fan 2 control. And this PSI harness, every sensor is going through that except for the oil pressure sender. So the oil pressure sender, I have put the Dakota Digital sender in, and I just have to run that wire in. So speaking of in, I'll show you what I've been up to in here. So we just had our open house, so I put some stuff in here to make it look like it was together. Here's our gauge cluster, Dakota Digitals, and our Hydro Drip carbon fiber cluster. We've got our hole opened up. I don't know where he gets these. If I find out before I post this video, I'll put a link. These are 3D printed for the 67 to 72 C10, and it allows you to put a normal double DIN radio in here. We use the Pioneer multimedia radios that we like because we do the ones without a CD player, so it's a shallow depth, and it gives you everything. They're awesome. We are not going to do push button start in this one. We are going to keep this one with a key for the ignition. So everybody that always complains about the push button start and that it's stupid and you should keep a key, this is the build for you. I threw my Dakota Digital gauge plate or control unit in, and as you can see over here, we have my, oh sorry, I meant vintage air, not Dakota. We have my vintage air all set up. I built this on the bench, what you have to do on the bench, and then installed this morning, so that is in. So now I gotta find out where, is it in here? Yes. So this isn't the PCM for this truck, but this is the style PCM we're going to be using. So I got to figure out where this thing is going to go. You'll also see we have our level 7 extended hump tranny mount or tranny tunnel in here. This is actually fiberglass. This is made by level 7. They're awesome. If you need anything C10 related, they have a ton. They also who made this pedal assembly, which is just awesome. It's a hydraulic assembly. The master is mounted inside the vehicle. You can see the hoses run there and there. You cut the jute in your rug around that, and it's got a ton of clearance. There is 2 tons of room there, so awesome. And I believe we're also going to go with their manual brake setup. They have a Willward setup specifically set up for these level 10 or no limit chassis. They do a ton of no limit chassis, so they have all kinds of stuff made for these. And I threw our shifter in here just to see how it look, and it's gonna be cool. We were toying back and forth. We have multiple shifters, but I was like, you know what, this is a truck, the seat's gonna be a little bit higher than normal. Let's put a longer shifter in here. So that's what we got. We'll see what else I got going on. So we have both step sides on, so that's cool. We did those last week. We put the reflectors in. We don't have any wiring yet. As I said, I did all my plumbing for my fuel system and all that stuff. Got to start doing some wiring. What we did find out, because we were seeing how low we could go with this chassis, level 7, I'm sorry, I keep calling it level 7. No Limit has a lot of options. And as you know, we bought this as somebody else's project, and we're going to finish it. I want to go fishing, but as you can tell, what we found out after doing some research on the options on this chassis, this guy bought the basest of the base model chassis you could get. It has the I believe these are D51 or D52 front brakes, and they are a Ford Explorer rear brake with a solid rear rotor. It's not a vented rotor. It is the stock ride height or base ride height, which is a little bit higher than what we were hoping for, but we'll make it work. And we have it as low as it can go already, because if you look, we are at 0 preload on our springs, and I don't know if you can see real good, but we are on the lowest hole on the bottom of the axle mount, which will drop this down as low as it can go. So we are there. It's up a little higher than what it's going to be right now because I have it up on the lift, but it's not going to be slammed like McDreamy was or the blue truck or anything, but that's okay. But that is where I am on this thing. We are going to start on the radiators in. I don't know if I showed you that. This is a Holley Frostbite radiator and fan assembly. These fans are huge, and they move a metric ton of air. So this thing, if I put a 110 degree thermostat in it, if they made one, this thing would run at 110 degrees with those fans on. It's ridiculous. But that's about it for now. I'm going to start on this wiring and start getting this stuff ran, and we're going to figure out where we, like I said, where we can put that PCM so I can figure out where I'm going to drill my hole for that. The fuse block I am going to mount, I believe, in the glove box like I did on McDreamy. I'll put a picture up here somewhere how I did that. I was very happy with that. The biggest thing is McDreamy was an E67 ECM. So it's a small little ECM. You can put those almost anywhere. This is a bigger ECM. So that's the only drawback of working with this Gen 3 crap. Gen 4, you get a E38 or a E67 ECM, and you can put them almost anywhere. They're tiny. So I'm going to get into doing some more of this wiring and stuff, and I will bring you guys back when I figure what my plan of attack is here. Alright, so I figured I'll start doing a little bit of battery wiring up here. So I've got my main junction block mounted down there. What I'm going to do is run my main power up to my relay bank for the power fan or the electric fans, and then probably run my main power wire roughly down to the starter, because the starter's not in yet, and I got to figure out where I'm going to be running my starter wire and my ground wire, because I want to keep them, you know, nice and neat together. And the ground obviously is going to be grounded to the negative terminal on the block, on the battery, and that'll go down to the block and then off of the block onto the frame, and then somewhere up in this area I'll have another 8 gauge coming off of the battery to the body itself, so it has a good body ground. And then underneath I'll do one to one of the seat bolts in the cab and one to one of the bed bolts, so that the entire body has a really good ground. But that's where I am right now, because all these, we got white wires are ground for vintage air. This red's going to be battery power. This orange is going to be battery power. This blue is my turn-on signal for my AC compressor, which I can't wire that in yet because we do not have my trinary switch, which controls my AC and my high-speed fans based on pressure, so that I don't have to worry about that with any conflict with coolant temperature. And then I'll also have in the ECM a low temperature turn on for both fans running shared 12 volts, and then high temperature, which will be both fans getting 12 volts themselves. And that is all controlled by these 3 relays here. If you want to know how to wire those up, in my how-to section, I've got a good guide on how to do your high-low fan setup with air conditioning input. But I'm going to get a couple of battery cables made, and then tilt my radiator back up, put that battery tray back in. But ultimately that battery tray, this block off port here, will both be coming out to get painted body color as well. We would do this, but needed to get everything in, so this may or may not come out. We'll see. It all depends on what Noah wants to do, if he feels like painting that too. But as of right now, I'm just doing basic long-term mock-up until we get crap painted. Alright, so what we have here for an e-brake is electric actuator kit from e-stop. First time I've used one of these. I kind of like it. I think we might do this from now on, because as you know, we like to put the kick panel speakers down in, and 9 out of 10 times that gets in the way of your e-brake handle. Now this truck, 67, if you know these trucks, uses the big stupid pull handle that mounts under the dash. It's ugly, it's dumb, it's just not something that's aesthetically pleasing. So we went a different route. So this mounts into your e-brake cable system just like normal. I just ran them up, custom bracket, nut-serted everything in here, and you cut to fit your lines and all that stuff, and run one cable inside. You have your brain box. They give you a little buzzer, which I have blocked off because it's super loud. But you hit your button, and your e-brake locks. And as you heard that beeping, and the light stays on to let you know that it's locked for, I don't know, like 10, 15 seconds or whatever. And then you hit it again, and it unlocks, and it blinks while it's moving. A couple of cool features I'll also show you on this is they give you this ground trigger, which if you're using Dakota Digitals like we are, you can put that into the brake slot on the brain box, and it will illuminate the brake light to let you know your e-brake's on. This blue wire that's not hooked up to anything right now, this is your ignition input. You hook this up to anything that is 12 volt ignition powered, ignition switched, like our pink wire that I use to power everything. And that makes it so that when your ignition is on, when this wire has power, this system will not work. So you can't accidentally hit the button and lock your e-brakes up while you're driving. So that's an awesome safety feature. But I like this system. It's very simple. I'm going to actually run this cable up and through in here, and then in with our oil pressure sender cable that also needs to go to the Dakota Digital. And that's about it. So what else are we doing? We've got our drive shaft. We got that made and in and everything, so that's good. We still have to paint this whole third member and then fill this thing with fluid. Other than that, all the brake lines are done except for coming out of our fittings to our calipers. So that's going to be coming up next. And I'm also going to be getting the fittings that we need to go from our propulsion valve on our master cylinder bracket down to these two lines here, because the way the no limit chassis are set up, you have this line goes to the rear, this line comes in here, tees off, and goes to the front. So even though that master has two ports to go to each of your front brakes, we can block one off. We don't need it. It's all going to go through one, and it tees off down here. And then after we get that, we're going to probably put the steering column in and get that whole shaft figured out. But that's where I am now, so I'm going to stop plugging away on some stuff. Okay, so my plan for today is I just degreased and cleaned off this whole third member. We're going to be painting that black so that it stays rust-free. I've got to fill the rear differential. Basically, we're going to go through the entire truck with what is together right now. Obviously, I can't put coolant in it because our coolant system's not hooked up, but we're going to do all my fluids. So we're going to get some Dex 3, which is replaced by Dex 6 for this T56 Magnum. I got to look up and see what they recommend for this, but it's probably just going to be 90 weight, 80-90, 80-140, whatever the hell, fluid for this rear end. We're going to fill the power steering system because that is done. Just make sure everything's topped off and good, and then we'll get to mounting this e-stop box up top and inside behind the dash somewhere and stuff. But it's going to be a catch-up stuff. My list on my board over here has been getting longer and longer of stuff that I shouldn't forget that I need to get done. So I'm going to take that list down a little bit because it'll end up getting longer after this, and I don't need it to be 17 miles long. Necessity is the mother of invention and all kinds of good stuff like that. So I've got my leg warmer for when it is colder here in the winter, heating up this whole third member just to finish drying off any solvent, not driving off any solvent, and just get a little warm so the paint, will dry a little bit faster. Because once I paint this whole thing, we're doing this by paintbrush. Once I get that all done, I'll put this back on it and let it fully cure the paint. All right, here we go. I'm going to do my best impression of Bob Ross. Alright, well, while the paint dries on the rear end, we're going to move to the transmission and fill it, because it is completely empty. So, I have some Dex 3 or equivalent, because Dex 3 ATF, and we're going to fill this. I might not have enough, because it says anywhere between 3 to 4 quarts. I believe I have about 3 quarts over there. I'm also leaking, which is super awesome because this is a brand new siphon tool. Alright, round 2. We'll see if the tool leaks this time because the seals were dry. I've never used this. It's literally brand new. I just got it. Yeah, no leaks this time. And see if it starts coming out of here. Not yet, so we need a little bit more. We'll see how much more I got. I might have an extra quart laying around too somewhere. I gotta look. I haven't really looked yet. Alright, perfect. I found another quart, and this should do it. It should start spilling out here, and once it does, we'll throw this plug in. Not yet. There we go. Alright, we are filled. So I will clean this whole area up now that I've made an absolute frickin' mess, and clean my tool up. Alright, so next up we're going to do the power steering system, but before I do that, I remove the line only because it's easier to get to this to do it. I'm going to put some Oetiker clamps on it to clamp these down, and you've heard me say this word a million times before, but if you haven't seen an Oetiker clamp, this is all it is. So it's a nicer style of a worm gear clamp without the mess, basically. And if you've ever seen these fancy pliers, that's what they're for. So it pinches in and pulls the whole circumference in, as well as if you watch that middle piece that goes up, so it pinches that down, so it's super low profile. So basically all you're going to do here is it grabs on each side of that. You don't drop it like that. I'm just trying to get this all lined up at the same time. You can orient this clip any way you want, so you can do it so it's completely clean. It doesn't really matter for this because it's under the car. This is the steering rack side. So we're on our clamp area. Make sure you're in camera here. Then you just squeeze, and we are tightened. And that makes a nice, tight, clean clamp that ain't gonna leak. This is the return side of the power steering system, so it's under very little pressure. I would not use these on the supply side, obviously, because pressures can spike over, I don't know, almost 1,000 psi on some of these racks. So now I will do the same thing on this end, where it goes into the steering box itself, well, not the steering box, the steering reservoir itself, and that's that. So let me go put this back on the car and do that. Alright, same deal here. I've already got the line retightened down to the rack, the AN fitting barb over here, so I'm gonna put my clamp on, slide in my, actually I'm gonna slide this back out and put just a touch of lube on there, so that will go on a hell of a lot easier, and I'm not risking breaking the fitting off of the side of the box. There we go. A little bit tighter in here. Let's see, I'll probably have to go rearwards. Yeah, so I'm going to throw this on here and do that and clamp that, but the tripod's kind of in my way, so I'll be right back. Actually, I just realized I can sneak right through the opening between the inner fender and the frame here perfectly. So we're right in the middle of our clamping area, and two-handed squeeze. There we go. Power system steering. Yeah, power steering system is done. Now, in a perfect world, I would love to AN fitting both of these, return and feed. But as you've heard me say, that's my only complaint about this Holley front runner system, is the return for the power steering is a barb instead of having a AN fitting. And of course the supply side is an AN fitting, which I love. If they would start making these boxes with an AN fitting on here, that would be like the happiest day of my life. Alright, center section is all dried finally, ready to go, so we're going to fill this with some gear oil. This is going to be a lot more resistance to push on than the transmission fluid was, but we'll get it in there. I'm actually going to push back against my chest. This is going to take a while, and I might need one more quart after this. We will see. Alright, ladies and gents, we're back inside the truck again. I'm going to sit here Indian style for a while. Wow, that rhymed. We're going to pull our cluster back out for the 17th millionth time, and I'm going to see where we can mount this box behind here, and where we can mount our switch. So what I am thinking is the bottom of both of these corners are going to get vintage air air vents. I'm thinking somewhere up here, so like maybe right there. That and I believe this box, I think I'll have room to mount it over here, but we're going to pull this cluster out first and see. Technically at this point this cluster wouldn't even be installed yet. I usually wait till last, but because we had our open house I wanted to get stuff in here, so the cluster was in, the HVAC panel, the radio, all that was in, so it, you know, looked nice for the open house. Alright, is that last one out? Yes it is. Oh, that thing flew right at me. Alright, and I gotta put this down and be careful not to scratch it. So right there. Perfect. So let me see. Let me do some fitting up under here and see where I like this whole box mounted, where I like it sitting and whatnot. The good thing is we are right near the fuse block, so my red can go to straight battery power like it needs to. My ground will be grounded up here with the rest of my grounds, and my ignition, I can also go to the fuse block, but if I didn't want to do that I could go into my accessory power ignition that goes right to my Dakota Digital brain box, because that's on the same ignition signal that one is. And actually I forgot, so this is the old speedometer cable. You have the pink and the black, that's ground and ignition power. I could also go on those. Alright, so give me a minute here. Let me see where my best mounting options are for this brain box for the e-stop. Well, we're back. Let me show you, after moving it around a few places and checking my outside to make sure that any retaining screws weren't going to be going into anything except for the pocket for the wiper linkage. I think this is where I've got my best option to be mounted right down in there. We're going to secure it with a screw here and then some double-sided tape on the back side to hold it from shaking and rattling around, and that puts my black and red that are going to be going to the actuator itself here, so I can just tuck them down and straight out, and it puts all my other power wires and stuff, and I just dropped it, on this side, so that I can easily make and mount my switch and wire all my other stuff. Like I told you, this green wire is going to be going to that brake right there, brake terminal. One of the cool things about this is that one of the cool things that Dakota Digital does is all your signals there, it tells you if that is supposed to be a positive input or a negative input, and thankfully the brake is a negative input, and this gives you a negative signal when you you know, do your connection, or when you turn the brake on. I always loved how they do it. They label everything positive, negative, and it's color coded if there is any colors involved. It's good stuff. So let me get that thing mounted in there and then figure out what size hole saw I need to drill the hole to mount this button. Okay, we are back. We are mounted. I have my brake telltale, the little green wire, plugged in. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a temporary power source hooked up because we're still waiting. Noah is about to paint all the rest of the parts he has to paint this gray, and one of those parts is the battery tray. So once the battery tray is back in, I can mount the battery, I can make my battery cables to the correct lengths and whatnot, and I won't have to use temporary power anymore. But we have power now, so what I want to see, actually, I want to double check and verify that this wire is actually ignition powered, which it is. See if it's while cranking as well. It is. Okay, so that's good. And this is ground at all times. Cool. What are these other ones, actually? Let's see. Oh, so that's signal VSS. Oh, VSS power. Okay, so that's, yeah, so that's the other side of that. Cool, so I can use these two, and I have this other side of this connector, so I can make this disconnectable for my switched power and my ground, and I will just have to run my main actual full-time power down to, unless, is there one up? There might be one in this harness I can use for that too, but I doubt it, if I remember correctly. Oh, actually, we have this whole harness over here. I forgot about this. So this is, American Auto Wires gives you this. This is accessories for aftermarket stuff if you wanted to hook it up to, but it should have all the signals I need. This red should be full-time battery, which it is. This pink should be switched battery, which it is. I don't think, the only thing that I don't think is in here is a ground, which is, that's fine, because, yeah, I don't need a ground. This can just be chassis grounded. So that just simplified a lot. Yeah, so let me figure out pros and cons here before I start cutting wires or making terminals and figure out which way I want to go with this. Alright, and while I decide which way I'm going to go on my power up here, I did just kind of plug these in because I want to show you how it lights the telltale. So this isn't going to stop beeping because it's not going to sense the actuator hitting its limit stops since the actuator is not plugged in, but it will start the process. So you'll see a red telltale come on here, and then on this side this will change from whatever it's on to, it'll say check brakes. Let's see if we can get it so you can read it. There we go. So I'm going to hit the button, red telltale comes on, check brake, and there you go, check brake. So that's cool. Let me disconnect that. So the system will work perfectly and come on and tell you that your e-brake is on when it's on. So that's awesome. So, and that is also tied into the pressure switch that's on the brake proportioning valve. So if you lose all brake pressure, that telltale will also come on. I have that unplugged right now though, because I knew if it was plugged in it would be on. But yeah, so let me get back to figuring out which way I want to do with power here. Alright, so after a bunch of extra deliberation, I decided that I was going to go straight to the fuse block for my power and my switched power. Because God forbid anything ever happens to this system where you have to disable it or reset it. If you were having to do that and I tapped into up here, you'd be pulling the cluster out or jimmying your arm up underneath here to do it. So instead I went down to there. Next up was where to mount my switch. So as I said, Dakota Digital puts a couple of 2.5-inch round vents in the dash. One on this side, one on the other. Oh, sorry, not Dakota Digital, Vintage Air. And the other one goes up here, but we're not using that because this radio plate we got gets out of that, or gets rid of that. So we absolutely have to use these side vents. So you'll have these two side vents, you'll have your floor, you'll have your defrost. I was figuring, I'm like, if I put the switch here, so now we have this here and then we have that there, and I didn't know if I liked it aesthetically, so we went off to the side here. So what this allows me to do is it's over here, it's not exactly hidden, but it's not out in plain view unless you're opening the door and getting in. Plus, you know, you got to undo your e-brake, you just reach up and you hit the button on the side here instead of pushing something here. I feel like it's a better choice. I liked it like that. So everything inside the vehicle is now hooked up. So now I just have to run my main power wire, power and ground, in from the actuator itself to hook up to these. But before I do that, I've got to look and see what else I have that has to run from in the engine bay in. So with coming in with this harness is going to be, or going out with this harness, is going to be coming in the oil pressure sender. And then on this side, the only thing left to run inwards is my main battery cable that's going to go to the amp that's going to be mounted back here. Other than that, I have two wires on the PSI harness that will also be running out, but they're small gauge wire, so they can run out the pass-through with all that vintage air stuff that will be going back out once the painted panel is back in. And those two smaller wires are my fan 1 and fan 2 controller or relay wires for high-speed, low-speed cooling fans that are being controlled by the factory GM computer that's going to be running this engine. So we're getting close. Stuff I have that I'm waiting on, we are waiting on our wiper switch to get here. Once the wiper switch is here, I can bolt in, or the wiper hardware as well for the wiper motor and transmission. I can get the entire wiper system done. Then literally the only thing I will have to wire up behind this dash is to hook my switched power, constant power, and ground and illumination wire up to my radio. And that will be it. And then just run my speaker wires, which those will be coming from the amp to a 6x9 in each rear corner, to a 6.5 that's down on mounting in the kick panels, and to these 4.5s or 4 inches that are in the dash up here. So between those, and then we will have the same 10-inch mounted back here that we just did in the 75 K10, because I believe that's going to be the speaker box we use for all these single cab pickups from now on, because it sounds amazing, it thumps, it handles, I think it's 300 or 350 watts RMS, which is awesome. That's more than we'll ever need. And it is a compact unit, so it fits behind where there's not a lot of room here very easily. So let me do some looking around in this firewall and see which existing hole I want to use as the pass-through for these wires for the brake and for the oil pressure switch sensor, and we'll figure that out. And then, whoa, we got boats starting. It'll probably be a day after that, for today at least, because I've got other stuff I've got to take care of outside of work. All right, let me show you where we're ending off today. I've got the big wire is for the electric brake. The small wire is the oil pressure sender that I had to run in there. So we're running both of those in there. Don't worry, that little bit of slack down there is going to be tied up tight, tucked into the body. You'll never see it. And I'll show you where we ended up in here. I got everything back in and together and wired. Temporary battery power still on, and I'm going to tell you right now, these lights shouldn't be on, but they're on because it's back feeding through the ground for the vintage air, because the vintage air is not hooked up to the battery yet. So normally these would be off. Don't worry about it. The way this works, key ignition is on. Can't do anything. It won't let you do it. That's so if you're driving, you don't accidentally hit this. If you didn't mount it in somewhere that was, you know, prone to being hit. Not unlike me, if you hit this while you're driving, you've got a death wish if it didn't have the safety feature. So we turn her off. The beeping is a little annoying. I'm leaving it on there. It's to whoever ends up buying this truck if they want to stop the beeping. It's just a quick snip snip of 2 little wires to the speaker. And then you press it again and it'll undo. But you saw how when I had the key on, you couldn't actually apply the brake. I was wondering this, and also I'll show you. So e-brakes on, check brakes. Hey, look at me, you can see me in the back. When the key is on, if the brake is applied, it will allow you to turn it off, which was something I was wondering, if you had to shut the truck back off to turn it off. But you can disable the brake with the key on, you just can't enable it. So now the key's on, can't enable it. All in all, pretty cool setup. I think we will be doing these from now on, especially with your foot e-brake down here, parking brake, because you know, like I said, we run our kick panel speakers and that thing is in the way of that every time. And this truck, because it was a 67, has got this big giant pull lever. I forget which way, if it's this way or this way, but it's like the size of this shifter. It's ridiculous. But this simplifies that, gets it all out of there. I'm liking it. Like I said, with each passing build, you figure out a different way, and you figure out something that works better, and stuff comes out cooler and cooler. Like a couple of builds ago, you know the multimedia radios we like to use? A couple of builds ago I was like, you know what? We don't build cars with ashtrays or cigarette lighters anymore, so let's get rid of the cigarette lighter, and it's a USB. But not only is it a USB, it's a USB pass-through. Where's the other end of it? Here it is. That will plug directly into the radio, which means this pass-through hooks your radio or hooks your phone directly up to your radio. So just little stuff like that. But it's Thursday. It is, there's like 4 inches of water outside the door, so I don't know how I'm getting out of here without getting completely soaked up to my ankles. But yeah, nor'easter time. It's Memorial Day weekend, so, you know, thank a veteran, all that good stuff while you're in the middle of your barbecues and your sales and whatnot. And I will see you guys next week, and we'll continue on this. Hopefully our radiator will be here for that 67 C10. Few updates. We've got a 78 two-wheel drive F-150 coming in. Going to be doing a Coyote swap, 6R80. Basically taking Sunshine's drivetrain and copying it and putting it in that truck. What else do we got? We've got two second gen F bodies coming in for various things. A first gen F body coming in to have a QA1 4-link installed in the rear, and we got a bunch of good stuff coming, so stay tuned. But I'm gonna go home now and relax, because it's Thursday, and that means it's Taco Bell night, which, if you know me, every night is Taco Bell night, so